Number of seats remain. Enroll right now at TavishTalks.com. That's TavishTalks.com.
Yeah, this is all good.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This is the 12th day of February in 1909. Today, the NAACP was founded in New York City to fight for civil rights, social justice, and equality following the 1908 Springfield race riots. Today, February 12th, in 1865, the first Capitol speech, Reverend Henry Highland Garnett delivered a sermon on the abolition of slavery in the House of Representatives. In 1793, on February 12th, the Fugitive Slave Law, Congress enacted the first fugitive slave law, allowing slave owners to seize, apprehend, and return runaway slaves. On this day in 1907, Roberta Martin born, gospel singer and musician Roberta Martin was born, a pioneer in gospel music. And in 1934, on this day, February 12th, Bill Russell, legendary Boston Celtics center and civil rights activist, Bill Russell was born. What an amazing man Bill Russell was. A good friend of my father's, a good friend of our families, and an icon, a pillar of strength in the African-American community. It's Thought-Provoking Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and therefore, none other than our conversation with Atiba is paramount because he helps level our week and gets us through very trying times. Atiba is the former Deputy Executive Director for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. He's a strategic alliance consultant and president of Party Politics US. He's worked as a TV political commentator for BNC News, The Heat, In the Know with Mo, The Leslie Marshall Show, iHeartRadio, GovExec, 96.3 WHUR, and the One America News Network. He most recently was a guest host on Rising, an American daily news and opinion web series produced by Washington, D.C.'s political newspaper, The Hill. In 2020, Atiba released his first novel, Saving Grace, a political thriller. Atiba, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Jesse, it's good to be with you.
And most importantly, welcome forward to our conversation.
Oh, thank you. It's always good to have these Thursday conversations. I know it's called Conversations with Atiba, but I like the conversation with Jesse.
I appreciate you, brother, but I'm so honored that you indulge us and that you bring so much to the caliber, the quality, and the spirit of our show, both challenging and thought-provoking. Atiba, there's a lot going on in the world today. What would you like to talk about?
Everything. This week, and I think that there have been, I hope, millions more who've been watching the monks who started off, I think it was in October, from Texas and walked 2,100 miles to the city of my birth, Washington, D.C. And I'm telling you, it's been such an amazing thing. They spent the night at Virginia State University, my alma mater, last week, I believe. They walked to Richmond. They walked up to Washington, D.C. And today they were with some of my friends in the Maryland State Legislature. And, not just the walk, but the peacefulness of it, and seeing so many law enforcement, sheriffs and officers post about it, and people posting about it and handing them flowers and giving their beautiful sentiments. It was just, it was beautiful to see that when someone not only makes the effort in terms of what they did, in terms of the intentionality of it, but in terms of showing love. And the lead monk, and I'm sorry, I don't know his name, I can't call it right now, but was asked, and he said, yes, we experienced some negativity, but their response back was love, which made me, of course, think of Dr. King and the nonviolent civil rights movement, and where we are today as a nation. So when you ask me, what do I want to talk about? I want to talk about a lot of things, but above all, I would love to talk about the human aspect of where we are and how we can change the world and the condition of where we are in this country by our thoughts and by our actions and with our heart.
I was thinking, when you mentioned Dr. King and the monks, I was thinking about Thich Nhat Hanh, who was very close to Martin Luther King Jr. And while Dr. King was obviously a Westerner, most images of Dr. King and Thich Nhat Hanh, Dr. King is wearing a suit and a tie. He's adorned with, traditional American garments. But Thich Nhat Hanh, of course, living as a monk, was also a centering factor for Martin Luther King Jr. That he came to understand there were alternative systems of human existence where brotherhood and sisterhood and commonality and connection to the universe, connection to each other, were primary factors underlying philosophy. Oftentimes we talk about non-violence and nonviolent philosophy. Dr. King had a real holistic approach, and it certainly transitioned to another level of spirituality when he engaged Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yeah, I think when you say that we all have different ways, there's so many in this country. We have 330 plus million people. I remember visiting Israel in 2007, and people told me before I went, people told me while I was there, people told me when I was out, they said, you can meet an Israeli, you can meet 100 Israelis, and every one of them will give you a different perspective. Well, I think that is very true here in America, that we all have we come to these things with different perspectives, different ethnicities, different communities, different religions. And one of the things that I really loved, and I continue to think about watching the monks, is they're as American as anyone, because one of the things that Ronald Reagan said was that America is a place that you can come to. You may not be born here, but if you do certain things, you can earn the right to be called an American. And what they did, I'm sorry.
Our conversations with Atiba will continue. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show with Conversations with Atiba. More we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
What's up? What's up? What's up? We got to laugh the pain away.
Hey, KBLA delegation, happy Black History Month. Around here, we celebrate our culture, our community, and our contributions daily. But this year, as we observe the 100th anniversary of Black History Month celebrations, we're excited about our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, honoring comedy greats. On Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum in downtown LA, we're toasting D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Munell, Dion Cole, and Martin Lawrence with a surprise guest appearance. A limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon remain, so now would be a good time to head to KBLA1580.com to secure one for yourself. That's KBLA1580.com. A little laughter goes a long way, especially in times like these. So come, join us for our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. Again, tickets are available right now at KBLA1580.com.
Well, I hang around my boy. He's been married for 6 years. Videotaped his wedding day, never watched it. Now and every day he watch it every day, but he watch it in reverse. Because he said he loves seeing himself take that ring back off of that finger. Walking back down that aisle, just waving at her, ugly mother down the church, getting back in the limo, back at the bachelor party. Look how happy I was.
KBLA Talk 1580 thanks LA City Council members Curran D. Price Jr. and Heather Hutt for being the presenting sponsors at this year's Black History Month Luncheon. Honoring excellence, resilience, and achievement, we're KBLA Talk 1580.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Thought Provoking Thursdays with my very good friend Atiba. The relationship between Martin Luther King Jr. and Thich Nhat Hanh was a profound spiritual brotherhood that bridged different faiths and cultures in a shared quest for global peace and justice. The beloved community, the core of their connection was this vision of the idea of a beloved community, a global society built on nonviolence, inclusiveness, and the transformation of enemies into friends. Both were members of the Fellowship of Reconciliation, an international peace organization where they likely first encountered the concept. They believed that man is not our enemy, but rather a real enemy were ignorance, hatred, and discrimination. After King's assassination in 1968, Thich Nhat Hanh made a deep vow to continue building the beloved community, a promise he fulfilled through the global Plum Village community. Tiba?
You know, just in terms of carrying on and talking about global peace, I keep thinking about the fact that we are in America and we have all these things that are going on. But more so importantly, as I mentioned before about the monks, is I'm watching and I'm reading and I'm reading people's posts about how moving it was for them. I love the fact that you just read that about how he continued to carry on his work, how he had impressed upon Dr. King certain things, but I'm thinking about it from the standpoint that each of us has a responsibility. It's like often we will cheer on people, and we will cheer on people that we consider to be famous who have done great things. But in us, as Dr. King said, in all of us, we have the potential to do greatness.
I want to bring forward our guest. Earl Wyatt is a stand-up comedian and the author of Shadow Ball on the Hill, a historical novel set in the world of the Negro League Baseball. Earl has spent years performing on stages from New York to Los Angeles and producing podcasts and radio content, blending sharp observation with storytelling rooted in history and culture. Earl Wyatt, welcome forward to our conversation with Atiba and to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
How are you two doing?
So glad you're here.
I'm doing well. This is a good day.
Earl, I want to welcome you to the show. And Atiba, I want to thank you very much for bringing Earl with you, our very special guest today. Atiba, let me allow you to begin engaging Earl.
So, Earl, let me preface it with this. First off, it's been a long time since I've seen you on a microphone in the dark. That is your thing. So, Jesse, during COVID, so you often introduce me as the president and founder of Party Politics US, and just to give people an understanding, Party Politics is something that I started back in 2009 after Obama became president, because people asked me, well, what can we do to bring people together from different political sides and this and this? And the whole idea was, well, you got to make it fun. So let's put the fun, not the politics, before the politics. And during COVID, I approached 5 of my friends. Janae Smith has been on the show. She was one of them. And asked them, hey, will you guys be open to doing, and this was before COVID started, but then we continued during COVID. Would you all be interested in doing a podcast? And the podcast was called, we called it a vodcast because it was video too, Chalkboard Conversations. And the idea started because of something we did in Texas where we had chalkboard on campus and let students write on the chalkboard. But I say all that, Earl, because, man, we had a lot of fun, and I missed that. I know we did something after Malcolm Jamal Warner passed away, but I just really appreciate the fact that you're joining us today to give the people some of your insight and some of your thoughts on some of these issues. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I got to say, before we even get started, the synchronicity of today is pretty spectacular. In 2009, I actually went to work at the NAACP. I worked there for the centennial year, like right after Obama had got inaugurated. By about March of that year, I came on board there to do web development and work on some apps. And and at the 100th anniversary convention that year is when I met your father. Wow. Just I got to tell you, it was a surreal year for me that year, but no, it just full circle. That things never happen like that, but today was a good day. That's good. I'm
sorry. I'll go into it with this. This is what we term as Black History Month. Yes. I'm reterming it in my own world as American History Month. Because if we're not American history, I don't know what is, first off. And, as we're looking at the things we have that are going on, you wrote a book. And I would love for you to tell us a little bit about Shadow Ball on the Hill, a historical novel. Of course, that's Jesse's an author. I'm attempting to be an author. But you wrote this book, Shadow Ball on the Hill, a historical novel set in the world of Negro League Baseball. What inspired you to write a book on the Negro League?
I mean, I want to be very clear and say that as a novelist, I have a difficult time with focus and discipline. But as a screenwriter, I can pound something out in about 5 days if given an opportunity to. And I'd heard at the time that Apple was going to greenlight a series around Negro League Baseball, and I thought that was a great idea. And immediately I wanted a job on staff. So you do what most screenwriters do. You write a spec script, you pound it out, you let some friends read it, let a mentor or two read it, give them give you some coverage, some notes, and then you go back to work. I did that I did some research because I figured out where the TV series was going to start. I went about a year before then and tried to guess who they were going to care the most about, and just did a ton of research. But in so doing, I found out about Gus Greenlee the week that the first Major League All-Star Baseball game took place. The first one, it took place in Comiskey Park in Chicago. The very next week, the first Negro League All-Star game was had in the same stadium, and I had to find out who put the money up for that. And there's a guy named Gus Greenlee who's based in Pittsburgh. So if I go a year before then, opening day, April 28th, 1932, he's opening the first Black-owned baseball stadium, Greenlee Field in Pittsburgh, and getting to know both the area, the geography, the fact that Gus Greenlee was also a numbers runner, the fact that his number one, his consigliere was Teddy Horn, Lena Horne's father, just the culture that takes place in Pittsburgh's Hill District at that time. It was hard to not want to set a story against that backdrop. And then on top of that, I get Satchel Paige, I get Josh Gibson, I get Cool Papa Bell, I get the guys who worked for the Pittsburgh Courier, they're involved. So, and Roger Van, so I just went out of my way, since it was such a rich historical period of time, I could tell that story. And then on top of it, there's a crime that takes place and people have limited options if they look like us at a period of time when the government systems were not geared towards serving our needs. And who do we turn to when we do need justice? And how does that get handled? And so being able to put all of that together in a script became super easy. And then I got a chance to golf with one of my mentors. And in the middle of it, he gave me the greatest tip ever. He said, if they're never going to make the show, because I think the show went bye-bye at some point. If they're never going to make the show, then why don't you convert the script into a novel and see if you can sell it as merch when you do stand-up? And I thought about it. I said, okay. And what I thought was going to be a 5-minute send it through Chat GPT and get it out. No, had to do it by hand, and it took another 2.5 months. But when I did, it gave me a chance to see the same characters differently, gave me a chance to see the same era and environment differently. And I felt like it became a richer story because I had to use words and not just count on somebody to deliver it visually. So I'm happy with the product. I'm super proud of the way that the product came together.
Earl, while we're on the subject of Negro Leagues, my grandfather, my father's stepfather, Charles Henry Jackson, who adopted my father in 1957, played minor league baseball as well during the Jim Crow era. And I'm wondering if you could put for our listeners Negro League baseball and the heroic efforts, the entertainment, yes, but also these were pillars of example for Black men, but also for families during Jim Crow. The opportunity to entertain ourselves in our own community. You think about the Harlem Globetrotters. You think about even the contemporary movie. I think it came out in the 70s, Bingo Long and the Traveling All-Stars. We got a chance to kind of see that our people were having fun and actually making fun of Mr. Charlie, knowing full well that they were better qualified to play even in their so-called all-American sport.
Yeah. I got to tell you that one of the things I find most, I will say challenging in all of my reading of this period of time is how in every era, there's a group of Black Americans who are allowed to live above everyone else's means because of a specific talent that many of us may have. But there's a selected group that get a chance to experience it. And through their ability to travel, their ability to communicate, they tend to let the rest of us know what life is like in rooms that we're not in. And the fact that those athletes not only had the press in the way of the Pittsburgh Courier and others to actually legitimately post the actual statistics, box scores, hits, runs. We know how far Josh Gibson's home runs are now because someone did write it in a journal then, even if it wasn't tracked in your major press in those days. So yes, those men were pillars, but they were pillars because we were going to be paying attention to them anyway, and someone was covering them. And without social media, these men had brands. and it's probably the beginning of it. I'm always amazed when it's athletes or artists who get a chance to exemplify. I mean, we're not going to bring it all the way around, but I think that's probably the challenge when it comes to Diddy. I think he provided a target for a lot of young Black entrepreneurs, something many people could swim towards because we thought we understood what that looked like. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's painful sometimes when they fall, because you thought this is something that representation matters, and being able to swim to those goals is awesome. And I felt like these men were able to do something that we're still in need of leaders to do. Sorry. That away.
Yeah, I was as you were talking, and Jesse, when you brought up your grandfather, it made me think about my grandfather who served in World War II. And a lot of people talk about how when he was younger, he was a great baseball player. I played baseball. Also, some of my conversations that I recall were talking with my grandfather about baseball, my mother's father. And Grandpa was considered to be, when I say exemplary, like, everyone who knew him said that he should have been able to play in the major leagues, but there were opportunities that were cut off to him. And I start thinking about the fact, again, this being American History Month, it was telling the story of the African and American who were descendants of slaves, what have you. And I was watching a clip of Kerry Washington, and I cannot call on the name of the movie right now, but was talking about the African American women who served in World War II. And in this clip, she talks about how there were people who looked at her as if she had, because they had been told by the white soldiers that she had a tail. And I remember my mom often telling us those stories about what my grandfather endured. So I mentioned that to say that those baseball players in the Negro League and how great those players were. And then there were so many others that never got a chance to even do that those are the stories also too, that whether they're in your novel, Earl, or how we tell them, but there are so many other stories that are still left to be told.
Agreed. Absolutely.
You know what I find also fascinating? My dad used to tell me the story when they would sit around a radio, and man, when Joe Louis knocked out Max Schmeling, and Negroes walked around with their heads high, their backs was straight that day. When Jesse Owens couldn't get a handshake from Hitler, and then came to the United States and couldn't get a handshake from Roosevelt, even though he stood up against white supremacy, as Earl said, in the best way that he could. When Jackie Robinson entered the major leagues and brought us to the games, and we weren't paying no attention to no Babe Ruth and the Yankees until Jackie got in the game. Anyway, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. as a Dodger. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580, our very special guest, Earl Wyatt, and our conversations with Atiba. More when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says he's sticking to the promises he made before taking office.
Why are you mad at me for doing what the people of Chicago elected me to do?
Speaking to the Chicago City Club, Johnson pointed to falling crime rates and called last summer the city's safest in 60 years. Senator Cory Booker says he will oppose funding for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security unless Democrats' reform demands are met. Booker, who is Black, called DHS reckless and out of control, citing recent deadly federal enforcement actions in Minneapolis. Senate Democrats have already rejected a GOP proposal to keep the agency funded ahead of the shutdown deadline. And Viola Davis will receive the Chairman's Award at this year's NAACP Image Awards. The honor recognizes those who use their platform to drive meaningful change. Davis has championed efforts to end childhood hunger and promote social justice. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Now is the time to save on an award-winning Nissan at the Nissan Now sales event, featuring the Rogue, Pathfinder, Frontier, and more. Don't wait. These offers are going fast. Shop your Southern California Nissan dealers and NissanUSA.com today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
The Clippers go into the All-Star break with a nice win in Houston Wednesday night. Kawhi Leonard converted a clutch three-point play with 2 seconds left to give the Clippers a 105-102 victory. Leonard scored 19 of his 27 points in the fourth quarter. New Clippers guard Benedict Mathurin had 16 points and 3 steals off the bench. The Clippers are 20-7 since December 18th. The Lakers are at home tonight against Dallas. Luka Doncic will miss his 4th straight game with a hamstring injury. Today at 4:30 at LA Live in downtown LA, the men's basketball teams at Hampton University and North Carolina A&T will be celebrated at a pop-up event sponsored by the NBA and Foot Locker. The teams are in town for Friday night's HBCU Classic at the Forum in Inglewood. The game kicks off NBA All-Star Weekend. The pop-up is free and open to the public and includes a performance by the marching bands from Hampton and North Carolina A&T. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the Southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download.
It's February 12th on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are in our Conversations with Atiba on Thought-Provoking Thursdays. Our very special guest is Earl Wyatt, a stand-up comedian and the author of Shadow Ball on the Hill, a historical novel set in the world of Negro League baseball. Earl has spent years performing on stages from New York to Los Angeles and producing podcasts and radio content, blending sharp observation with storytelling rooted in history and in culture. Brother Wyatt, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and our conversation with Atiba.
It's good to be here.
Atiba?
So, Earl,
Yes.
You know, I think back to the podcast. I think about you and I and our many conversations. And then I think about your humor and stand-up comedy. What got you into stand-up comedy? What made you know that you were funny and could be a stand-up comedian? And how did you have any jitters, any nerves or whatever, or did you just feel like, I'm just going to do it?
I come from a family of communicators. You know, my mom, my dad, my sister, my niece, everybody in my collective clique can tell you a story efficiently, because my dad doesn't like a whole lot of extra words, but we can all tell a story, and we learn how to shape narratives. And I started doing a show, a small radio show on WPWC here in DC. And when I started it, I needed to, at first you think, how do I promote the way, you either think or you're the way you see the world, if you've got an observant sensibility, which I like to think I do have. And so my writing got me on the show. And then on the show, I figured, well, it's just a natural extension. I've made my family laugh, and it's not the same thing at all. It's really not. The writing is similar, but learning how you can deliver a point of view is a little bit more complicated. And I found that doing more radio, doing more writing, it made the content, it created a more organic pipeline for the content from my head out. And so once I was able to kind of do that and be able to make a few of my friends laugh when in public, I started thinking, okay, what is stand-up going to feel like? And most stand-up comedians will tell you the first 1 or 2 times you go out, you will kill, because there's an honest delivery. You don't have any games. You don't know how to make a joke sound like a hack comedian would sound. You're just talking. And then you start to bomb for years until you get to the place where you can get to where you started with new information. It's a level of honesty, a level of comfort, and your ability to deliver it to anybody. And I've also had some really good mentors along with it. But yeah, you want to ask about jitters? Anytime you're hitting a new club in a new place or a new stage in front of an audience that you don't know if they know your material or if they know what you're going to say, I would say there are gigs I've had in Virginia where I wasn't as comfortable doing, let's say, anti-Trump material, right? Where, there are laughs to be had there, but you don't want to be hacky, and it can't be original and can't be too partisan and too derivative in places at one point. And now I've done some anti-Trump material inside the Kennedy Center and did okay. So I would say the nerves come from all parts of the experience. And I've done this, I want to say I started about 10 years ago, but it was only the last 4 years where I've kind of locked and said, I'm going to be doing this probably forever on top, whatever else I may do. I don't think I will ever give up stand-up.
Hey, Jesse, Jesse, now we know why the president closed the Kennedy Center.
That was a good set too. I
think Atiba got over his jitters right there. Hey, yeah. I was watching on, I think it was Netflix, or maybe it was on another streaming service, a documentary about the role that Black comedians played and the things they were able to get away with. Stage, some segregated audiences, some multiracial audiences, but they were able to speak truth to power in ways that even our most vocal leaders were unable to do so, and deliver messages to diverse crowds, diverse political crowds that that were really poignant, that were really, really clear, that were funny as hell. But at the same time, they too identified with the movement, and this is the best way that they could communicate it. And I mean, that came with its own struggles, right? There's this idea of comedy and tragedy, on the one hand, the comedians on stage and, making us laugh. But then when Richard Pryor, recedes to his dressing room or to his home or to his private space, there is this personal struggle, this introvert, this person who doesn't want to come out of the shell, who ends up, in some kind of locked into some kind of substance abuse as a result of that. That dynamic is real for a creative mind like yours, Earl. your thoughts on what, these men and women, these trailblazers in comedy who break through barriers, who make fun of very serious issues. But they're also, how shall I say it, therapeutic for us,
right?
Those who want to laugh. Earl?
I would say that the formula that you eventually see in some book or online when you do comedy is comedy equals tragedy plus time. And when you want to talk about a present day tragedy and make people laugh, you have to really be good at the comedy because there's been no time. No time has passed, but I need to laugh about this right here, right now. And being able to figure out how to do that. Dick Gregory showed us a way to do it. Paul Mooney was classic at doing it. We don't talk about Bill Cosby very much. And what he didn't do is talk about culture. He would talk about his own family life. And so there's that, but you needed a Richard Pryor to be able to tell you how he saw the world outside of his home. Because talking about his home wasn't always it wasn't always ready for the camera. There is a history, and it's interesting. When it came to Eddie Murphy, you saw the two major pillars, your Bill Cosby's and Richard Pryor's kind of merging to one guy having the throne at such a young age. And then, it would get passed to Chris Rock and Martin Lawrence and and Dave Chappelle. But what happened after that is it split again between Cat Williams and Kevin Hart. And you get Kevin Hart, who's going to talk about his family, not talk about culture at large, just talk about his family and his kids. And on the opposite side, you've got Cat Williams, who will tell you about everything else, everything. And I would say the tradition is still very much alive, but they do get a chance to speak to power because they have an honesty and they've proven an ability to resonate with people in the past. And we always give people an opportunity here. Some of us are even trying to hear Kanye out. Like, okay, you hurt your brain. You went through a windshield. Okay, well, what else you got? I think at this point.
Atiba?
I don't even know how to come back after that. I'm sitting here shaking my head.
He was over there with the jitters.
I didn't say give him a pass. I just said, some of us are hearing him out. I'm like, okay. I got to tell you, undiagnosed brain trauma is definitely a new one. That's I got to tell you. I can't be an advocate for mental health every other place and then act like I didn't hear that. So for me, it's like, okay, I didn't say absolved. I just got to hear him out.
I do want to talk about the therapeutic side of comedy, though.
Please.
Because many of us can't get professional care. Some of us can, and our healthcare allows us to do that. But for Black people through time, to laugh, right? There are a couple of places we could retreat to. We could retreat to church on Sunday morning and sing Negro spirituals or listen to the pastor preach a sermon of liberation clouded in theology. We kind of knew that everybody talking about heaven ain't going there. We kind of knew that, right? And, right. Slave master be sitting right there. You preaching now. Yeah, everybody talking about heaven. We talking about you, right?
Facts.
You're not going to heaven, partner. We are. When the saints go marching in, it ain't you, partner. You're not going with us. Where we going? But for the comedian also, even on the plantation, all the way up to the contemporary era, we hear something different than what others who are sitting in the audience are listening to, because our comedians are really artists who are telling us something and helping us in ways that we can't get professionally helped for.
I would think so. It's funny. One of the things I think helps the Black experience in this country more than anything else is the realization that on some level, you're not the only one going through whatever your struggle is. You're not the first person, you're not the last person. That's actually what keeps us sane. We're talking about mental health, the reality that it might be happening to more than just me. And does that person break? Did that person not break? I think comedians help us get through those very tough moments.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This is our conversation with Atiba. We have a lot more when we come forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More on KBLA in just a moment.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
is Tyrone Owens, and this is my home for 23 years that burned in the fire. Me and my wife, Charlene, we had this whole yard decorated every year.
This was the house that sparkled throughout the entire neighborhood on all the holidays. It's a community that will never be the same due to the negligence of the utility company. So I am pretty upset about that.
We were nowhere near being able to rebuild with our insurance. It's going to cost $1 million to put your house back up.
I want to get back to that point where we were before the fire. I'm starting to get emotional, but I'll work through it. LA Fire Justice has been wonderful for us. They're just caring people. We have all faith in them.
Big ups to LA Fire Justice, who's given us hope to rebuild 100%.
Advertisement. Douglas Foster, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Every morning, we rise and shine, make breakfast, and brush away the night's rest. These routines help us start the day off right. Nature Made vitamins are a simple step in that daily care regimen. Multivitamins with daily essentials, clinically studied probiotics for gut health support, magnesium to help relax the body. Nature Made is made to care for you every day. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Thought-provoking Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and our regular conversations with Atiba continue. I want to thank Earl for spending this wonderful time with us. Atiba?
Earl, just wanted to say thank you again. You know, it's great to be back on with you. Appreciate your insight and your laughs. And usually at the end of the show, when we have a guest on, we give them a minute to give a word of hope. So before you leave us, could you give us a word of hope?
I would say that if you watch this administration, when the only time they've paid any attention to us is whenever they've attempted to attack our history. I would say during the course of Black History Month, let them attack it. You go out and make some more Black history yourself. And then you keep making history. Someone else got to keep trying to find a way to subtract it. They got to get tired at some point. All right. That's my little message of hope. Just keep making more Black history this month.
It's wonderful, Earl Wyatt. Thank you very much for spending time with us. Earl's a stand-up comedian and author of Shadow Ball on the Hill, a historical novel set in the world of Negro League Baseball. Earl, where can we get this book?
You can get it everywhere you'd buy your book. So it's Amazon, Borders, Barnes & Noble. If it's online, you can get the book, as well as digitally on Kindle and Apple Books.
And where else can we follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram at earl.wyatt.ii. It'll be easier to find me there. You'll get the stand-up clips as well as the notifications about the book.
Earl, thank you for spending time with us on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. So great.
Thanks, Earl.
Atiba, let me ask you a question, because I think Earl raised some fairly interesting points that that I think coincide with our own words of hope. Just his focus on Negro League baseball, it really did raise our heads higher. It straightened our spines. I mean, we better not go to work the next day talking about Joe Louis knocking out Max Schmeling, but everybody knew you had a smile on your face because Mr. Charlie was not feeling good about his notions of white supremacy and having lost to Joe Louis, or having gotten run down by Jesse Owens, or run over by Jesse Owens, or to watch Jackie Robinson excel in the major leagues, and knowing full well that every Negro in the Negro leagues was probably better than some baseball player in some position in the major leagues. There's this thing that we always could have been, that our potential was always there, that, as Reverend Jackson says, we have to be superior just to be equal. And these luminaries, some of whom Earl talked about in the program, really stood out as examples in the throes of tremendous oppression of what we could be, and we held on to that hope.
Yeah, Jesse, I've been not even wrestling with this, embracing it. That as a kid, and I'm sure you heard the same thing as well as millions of others, that, hey, in this country, we have to be better than everyone, and then they only treat us this and that or whatever. But I think that part of where I would love to see us get back to is excellence. Because Jackie Robinson was excellent. All these other people that we talk about, they were excellent.
On and off the field.
On and off the field. And the thing is that we held them to a certain standard. And I believe that the reason why the system put concrete in a way around these certain things, because they know, and they knew because they studied us in the fields. They saw us in their homes. They tasted our food. They were just so trusting that they let their children suck off the nip of our grandmothers and our mothers. Because they knew we weren't just cool. We were great. So I think that part of when I think of where we are in this nation, I want us to know our greatness. I want us to go and talk to our grandmothers and our grandfathers and our mothers and our fathers, even our great-grandparents, and ask them the question, what was grandpa doing? What did you know about grandma? Just tell me a story, because that will awaken the consciousness within us. And I think that will awaken the greatness that's in us. And I long believe that God did not have us come here just to be mediocre. And so, when we've gotten our chance to play in sports, we've excelled. When we had our chance, Charles Richard Drew, for instance, in science, Lewis Lattimore, and many, many others, Garrett Morgan, all of them, when we got our chance, or even we didn't get a chance, we just took it. And so I think that that's where we have to get to stop waiting for somebody to let us do something, and for us to, as Earl said, make our own history. And it doesn't mean because you don't end up on the pages of a book that doesn't mean you're not great, because each of us has the potential to do greatness. The only thing stopping us is us.
I want to hang around that word excellence as we close out this hour of the show. Excellent. When you think about Paul Robeson on stage, not only a thespian, but someone who spoke as many as a dozen languages. And when he exited the stage, There was a character to Paul Robeson, suit and tie, and even challenged by the U.S. government on his status as an American, and yet he stood there proudly. When I watch our men enter National Basketball Association coliseums, and we talk about the greatness of their athletic prowess, but then we see them walk in wearing this and wearing that, and you think about Jackie Robinson, who came to work in a suit and tie, and after the game, he put his suit and tie back on, and with a cropped haircut, spoke the King's English, right? I mean, these men and women during this period saw themselves as ambassadors from our race to the broader culture and to the world. And they held themselves to the standard, not of their jeans down by their knees, not a bunch of gold chains, not on social media promoting their wealth, but living modestly because they were ambassadors of the race. They took advantage of every media opportunity that they had to demonstrate the highest quality of excellence of who we are and who we were. That's what they did. And they were conscious of it. They paid attention to the intention, even if it weren't the spoken word. And so I see athletes today and I say to myself, that's no Lou Alcindor, because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is still engaged. He's not just shooting basketballs and dribbling. I mean, he's engaged in social justice. When I see our men and women performing today, Louis Armstrong was the same way he walked off stage as when he walked on stage. He held his head high. Sammy Davis Jr. I mean, the quality and caliber not only of their work, but of their lives mattered. Lena Horne, it mattered to the race, our behavior, and therefore excellence still reigns supreme. Atiba, we have about 2 minutes before we come forward for the next half of our show. Your thoughts?
Paul Lawrence Dunbar said, we wear the mask. You know, it bears the grins. It hides the sadness. You know, Earl talked about, you know, in terms of comedians, and you talked about, you know, we don't know what's behind the veil. So I look at, because I sometimes I'm looking at athletes, I'm looking at celebrities, I'm looking at who the system allows to be pushed to the forefront. And I wonder, you know, well, the dress, the this, whatever, those are things that bother me. But I also recognize and think about Ralph Ellison's book, Invisible Man. And I think about often people have felt that they were invisible. And so they will do and go to extremes to be seen. And that we can together collectively all instill a certain sense of pride in one another, build one another, and remind each other that each of us, every day we step into a store, we step outside, wherever it may be, that we are all ambassadors all of the time, but that we hold a responsibility to always uplift not just our community, to uplift the whole world, as Dr. King and many others did. And how we influence and how we encourage other people is all indicative in terms of our behavior and how we talk, how we walk, and most of all, how we act.
We've been in conversation with Atiba on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says he's sticking to the promises he made before taking office.
Why are you mad at me for doing what the people of Chicago elected me to do?
Speaking to the Chicago City Club, Johnson pointed to falling crime rates and called last summer the city's safest in 60 years. Senator Cory Booker says he will oppose funding for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security unless Democrats' reform demands are met. Booker, who is Black, called DHS reckless and out of control, citing recent deadly federal enforcement actions in Minneapolis. Senate Democrats have already rejected a GOP proposal to keep the agency funded ahead of the shutdown deadline. And Viola Davis will receive the Chairman's Award at this year's NAACP Image Awards. The honor recognizes those who use their platform to drive meaningful change. Davis has championed efforts to end childhood hunger and promote social justice. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Now is the time to save on an award-winning Nissan at the Nissan Now sales event, featuring the Rogue, Pathfinder, Frontier, and more. Don't wait. These offers are going fast. Shop your Southern California Nissan dealers and NissanUSA.com today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
The Clippers go into the All-Star break with a nice win in Houston Wednesday night. Kawhi Leonard converted a clutch three-point play with 2 seconds left to give the Clippers a 105-102 victory. Leonard scored 19 of his 27 points in the fourth quarter. New Clippers guard Benedict Mathurin had 16 points and 3 steals off the bench. The Clippers are 20-7 since December 18th. The Lakers are at home tonight against Dallas. Luka Doncic will miss his 4th straight game with a hamstring injury. Today at 4:30 at LA Live in downtown LA, the men's basketball teams at Hampton University and North Carolina A&T will be celebrated at a pop-up event sponsored by the NBA and Foot Locker. The teams are in town for Friday night's HBCU Classic at the Forum in Inglewood. The game kicks off NBA All-Star Weekend. The pop-up is free and open to the public and includes a performance by the marching bands from Hampton and North Carolina A&T. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Check it out. After nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, poets, and cultural icons, I have learned that the difference between a good conversation and an unforgettable one is not what you say, it is how you listen. Most people listen to respond. I learned to listen to learn and follow. When you master this, something remarkable happens. People just open up. They leave the conversation feeling truly heard, and they never forget you. Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley, and for the first time in my life, I'm teaching everything I have learned. The Art of Conversation, a 4-week masterclass for podcasters, leaders, and professionals who understand that the ability to connect is their greatest competitive advantage. Our founding cohort starts Monday, February the 16th, and only a limited number of seats remain. Enroll right now at TavisTalks.com. That's TavisTalks.com.
Yeah, this is all good.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. It's Thought Provoking Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And that means in our second hour, we are in the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack, social entrepreneur and scholar practitioner with an expertise in the subject areas of peace, conflict, and social change movements. He's traveled extensively throughout the Americas, Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, working in the fields of peace, development, conflict, and nonviolent social change. Dr. Mack's seminal work, After Confrontation, Then What?, challenges the putative logic of nonviolent social change theory and practice. Particularly, he rearticulates nonviolence beyond the traditional understanding of nonviolent struggle as principally nonviolent resistance. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Hey, Jesse, good to be here. Thank you.
Johnny, I'd like to do something unusual, if you can just allow me this 2 minutes, because the monks have now arrived, as our previous guest suggested, in Washington, D.C. That's after having walked 2,100 miles from Texas, to crowds, to people cheering, to people appreciating the spirit energy that came from that. This is taken from At Home in the World, Stories from a Monk's Life by Thich Nhat Hanh on page 72 and 73. They call you Bodhisattva, Thich Nhat Hanh's friendship with Martin Luther King. This is what Thich writes, and it's about 2 minutes. I first wrote to Dr. King on June 1st, 1965, explaining to him why some of us in Vietnam had emulated ourselves in protest against the war. I explained that it was not an act of suicide or of despair. There are times when we have no other way than to burn ourselves in order to be heard, in order to get the message across. The people of Vietnam did not want the war, but there was no way for this voice to be heard. The warring parties controlled all the radio, the television, and the newspapers. To burn ourselves like that was not an act of violence, it was an act of compassion, an act of peace. The suffering of the monk who burns himself to convey a message of love and compassion is of the same nature as the act of Jesus Christ dying on the cross, dying with no hate, no anger, only compassion, leaving behind a compassionate call for peace, for brotherhood. A year later, on June 1st, 1966, I met Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. in person for the first time in Chicago. From that moment, I knew I was in the presence of a holy person. Not just his good work, but his very being was a source of great inspiration for me. When those who represent a spiritual tradition embody the essence of their tradition, just the way they walk, sit, and smile speaks volumes about the tradition. Martin Luther King Jr. was young at the time, and I was. We both belonged to the Fellowship of Reconciliation, an organization working to help groups in conflict find peaceful resolution. We had tea together in his room, and then we went down for a press conference. In the press conference, Dr. King spoke out for the first time against the Vietnam War. That was the day we combined our efforts to work for peace in Vietnam and to fight for civil rights in the U.S. We agreed that the true enemy of man is not man. Our enemy is not outside of us. Our true enemy is the anger, hatred, and discrimination that is found in the hearts of minds of man. We have to identify the real enemy and seek nonviolent ways to remove it. I told the press that his activities for civil rights and human rights were perfectly in accord with our efforts in Vietnam to stop the war. Just 2 more paragraphs. In May 1967, 1 year later, I met Dr. King again in Geneva at a conference called Pacem in Terris, Peace on Earth, organized by the World Council of Churches. Dr. King was staying on the 11th floor. I was on the 4th floor. He invited me up for breakfast, and on my way, I was detained by the press, so I arrived late. He kept the breakfast warm for me, and I had waited for me, and I greeted him, Dr. King, Dr. King, Dr. Hahn, he replied. When we were able to continue our discussion on peace, freedom, and community, and what kinds of steps America could take to end the war, and we agreed that without a community, we cannot go very far. Without happy, harmonious community, we will not be able to realize our dream. I said to him, Martin, do you know something? In Vietnam, they call you Bodhisattva, an enlightened being trying to awaken other living beings and help them move toward more compassion and understanding. I'm glad I had the chance to tell him that because just a few months later, he was assassinated in Memphis. I was in New York when I heard the news of his assassination. I was devastated. I could not eat. I could not sleep. I made a deep vow to continue building what he called the beloved community, not only for myself, but for him also. I have done what I promised to Martin Luther King Jr., and I think I have always felt his support. I'm struck by that in this moment, as these monks have gotten our national attention, having walked 2,100 miles, some without shoes on their feet, for the last several months to get our undivided attention as Americans. Johnny, in some way, Dr. King is also talking about and living a simple life, and he's encouraging us to consider that as an option as well.
Yeah. Jesse, I hadn't read that in years. When you listen to Thich Nhat Hanh and you think about Dr. King's own writing, and I reflect on the conversation that you just had with Earl and Atiba, with Earl Wyatt and Atiba, one wonders what is the world producing today in terms of the type of leadership, the type of commitment that ordinary citizens of the world, the world itself produces. These are really giants. As we look back, we understand how significant their contribution is to human development, how they gave of themselves. Jesse, I like to use the term, how they donated themselves to social change and human development. And I'm struck, as you, by the clarity in their voice, their ability to assess where they were then and reflect on how we seek to define and understand where we are today.
Johnny, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're going to go deep into the spiritual nature of what movement and resistance really looks like when we engage our entire being in such an effort. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward with Johnny Mack.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
What's up?
We got to laugh the pain away.
Hey, KVLA delegation, happy Black History Month. Around here, we celebrate our culture, our community, and our contributions daily. But this year, as we observe the 100th anniversary of Black History Month celebrations, we're excited about our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, honoring comedy greats. On Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum in downtown LA, we're toasting D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Munell, Dion Cole, and Martin Lawrence with a surprise guest appearance. A limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon remain, so now would be a good time to head to KBLA1580.com to secure one for yourself. That's KBLA1580.com. A little laughter goes a long way, especially in times like these. So come, join us for our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. Again, tickets are available right now at KBLA1580.com.
Well, I hang around my boy. He been married for 6 years. Videotaped his wedding day, never watched it. Now and every day he watch it every day, but he watch it in reverse. Because he said he loves seeing himself take that ring back off of that finger. Walking back down that aisle, just waving at her ugly mother down the church. Getting back in the limo, back at the bachelor party. Look how happy I was.
KBLA Talk 1580 thanks LA City Council members Curran D. Price Jr. and Heather Hutt for being the presenting sponsors at this year's Black History Month Luncheon. Honoring excellence, resilience, and achievement, we're KBLA Talk 1580.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Polly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to Thought Provoking Thursdays and the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. Dr. Mack's research includes extensive study of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s logic of nonviolence and the U.S. Civil Rights Movement. He explicates Dr. King's logic of nonviolence using King's call to restructure the social edifice, and particularly its triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism, with a revolution of values that is effected through peaceable power. I'm honored that he grants us this very special time every Thursday. Dr. Mack, welcome forward.
Good to be here, Jesse. Thank you so much.
Johnny, Lord knows I did not want to interrupt your reflection just before the break, but I got to pay the sponsors. We got to pay the bills. Please continue your thinking, and then I do have a few questions for you.
No, I appreciate it, Jesse. Yes, I was, as you say, just reflecting on the reading, as I had not read it in quite some time. And I was reflecting on that type of leadership. But it raises the question, as I picked up from your comments in the last segment, what leadership looks like today, who we are looking to today. And we tend to view leadership in the context of celebrity.
Mm.
And I also gleaned that from your comments in comparing, for example, the athletes of that erstwhile time in the mid 20th century, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor. You know, the many boxers, the Olympic athletes, Jesse Owens, and so many more, Jesse. And so, but you know, each of those were ordinary citizens who somehow rose to the occasion, and they represented an example, Jesse. They understood their role as exemplars of the race, right? Exemplars of our movement, of who and what we are and what we offer to this great nation and to the world. And one wonders, as I think you are doing, and along with your guests in the last hour, who are they today? Who are we today as examples of what we represent as peoples in this greater gathering in the World House today? What is the example that we are demonstrating? And you know, sometimes it's I'm just going to say it a bit embarrassing. You know, what we are offering to those who come behind us, the examples that we're presenting. On the other hand, there are some exemplary individuals, women and men, who understand the significance of their presence and how they're viewed today. There's much more to say about that. And particularly, I'd like to move the conversation, Jesse, in the broader scope of the global diaspora and where things are today and what our responsibility collectively as a global diaspora is in reshaping, you know, this new world order that is emerging.
Johnny, just before we make that pivot, I'm thinking in this moment, with a reflection on your reflection, I'm thinking about Poitiers. I'm thinking about Belafonte. I'm thinking about Leontine Price. I'm thinking about those entertainers who showed up at the March on Washington, risking their lives, their credibility, their careers to stand for justice. And the excellence, Atiba said, that they demonstrated not only in social protest, but on film. All me, Mr. Tibbs. I mean, these guys stood there with dignity in the face of a systemic oppression, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking also about our Native American brothers and sisters who referred to, you know, the Great Spirit, Great Spirit. And when I hear the reverence in Thich Nhat Hanh's reflection on Martin Luther King Jr., that he felt that he was in the presence of a holy person. And then I bring that all the way up to Johnny Mack's interpretation of something he had read years ago, but is now reflecting upon. And that is, who today, beyond being politically correct or saying all the right stuff or leading the opposition in our own country and around the world, who do we see as a holy person? Who do we see as a great spirit that is exemplar of the Great Spirit, and have even given consideration to it, because it's on the stage, but it's also off the stage. It is, you know, in this moment, I think and reflect upon my own shortcomings because I've not been able to bridge the difference oftentimes between the public and the private. It's hard, right? But King was pulling us somewhere. And I'm going to conclude by saying this. In the final statement, if you will, and I'm going to get this wrong, the speech that he gave the night before, he said, I may not get there with you, but he's seen the promised land. I would like to live a long life, but the point of my life is not longevity. It's the quality of the life that I've lived. Dr. King is heading in a space that the traditional ministry and the politicians weren't headed. He became, in death, the Great Spirit. He's the Great Spirit. He's as holy as Thich Nhat Hanh said he was when he met him. And that means that Dr. King paid some attention to intention through all of his actions, his thoughts, and his deed. Johnny Mack?
Paid attention to intention. I'm writing that one down, Jesse.
Johnny, I think I borrowed it from you.
So listen,
in time, over time, for all time.
Jesse. Yeah, now not yet, right? And so, in that time, in his time, the world was truly a different place. How we thought about ourselves in the world was quite different. I think studies show that how people, particularly in the Western world, and perhaps a particular segment of the Western world, views religion quite differently, in all religions, by the way, quite differently than it was viewed in the mid-20th century. Some might say we were more holy then. We certainly were more religious than the collective of our humanity in the Western world. And so, people have a lot less confidence in faith and in the holiness of those who reflect a power greater than we are. That uncaused cause, the immovable mover, whatever term you want to give, our creator, if you believe in such a thing, and the goodness that comes from a power greater than we. And King and Thich Nhat Hanh exemplified that in ways that I think you're implying we don't see today. I wish, Jesse, I had the answer. Who is that person or those persons? I think, Jesse, though, that we can find them. They certainly exist. And I think they exist more collectively in our world today than we might understand them to be individually identifiable. That is, we must come together as a collective consciousness. Rather than looking to the one, we must look to us all to reflect that kind of moral integrity and judgment that creates the kind of social gathering, a world where we can live in justice and peace. And so that's one of the problems. Don't let me talk too long, Jesse, but that's one of the problems. We're looking for the next king. I'm often asked as I travel around the globe, who is the next king? And why don't we have a Martin Luther King in our experience, in our world? And when in fact, as king was just an ordinary citizen of the world who rose to the occasion when it called him, each of us can do the same.
Johnny, I want to offer a soft pushback, but not too more complicated than you said, that the leader we're looking for is ourselves, that we're looking within ourselves to make this transformation, to make this complete exodus from who we were to who we will be as a free people. And I reflect on the 250th anniversary, if you will, of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. Whether we want to accept it or not, our system produced Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Our system, from K through 12, all the way through our lived experiences and history, produced Stephen Miller.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It produced Steve Bannon. It produces the movements that manifest themselves in our politics. The greed, the gluttony, the antithesis of everything that the lives the monks live as they walked from Texas to Washington, D.C., a simple life, and the extraordinary recognition by Thich Nhat Hanh of the great spirit that he saw within Martin Luther King Jr. and Martin Luther King Jr. saw in him, that he was conscious of the development of that spirit. Now, I'd be less than honest. We're having a great spiritual conversation, but I've been in 5 arguments today with 5 different people over this and that. And there is nothing about what you're hearing on the radio in my reflection with Johnny Mack that reflects the kind of day that I've been having. Because when I'm not on the radio, I'm doing what I do and you do what you do, because there is a gap between, how would Jesus have handled this? Asking a question raised by Charles Spurgeon, what would he do? What should we do? Or how Dr. King would handle this? How would he what tonality, what expressions would, what patience. You know, I'm convinced of this, by the way, Johnny. I'm convinced now that I know my father so well. I'm convinced Dr. King was real patient with my dad, man. He was real patient with him because of this conversation. I know that he was, I know Ambassador Andrew Young, love him to death. He was patient with him. He was patient with Ralph Abernathy. He was patient with Joe Lowry. He was patient with John Lewis. So all of these forces that are luminaries in our consciousness, he was real patient with Stokely Carmichael.
Don't forget Hosea.
Yeah. Don't bring a tear to my eye of laughter, right? He was patient, and it did make him a compelling spirit.
Yes.
And all of us can be CEOs. All of us can be the head of something, but that doesn't make you, just because you're the head of it doesn't make you the great spirit of the company. It doesn't make you the great spirit of the church. You may be the pastor, but that don't make you the great spirit. She may be sitting right over here on the front row with her hat on, having been there through about 10 pastors, and she's the great spirit of the church. And she sees you coming and going. You know, the great spirit of my father's own organization might have been the late Reverend Willie Taplin Barrow and the late Lucille Conway Lohman. I mean, they were, if you will, you know, the great spirit. And that's not to take anything away from my own father. But who do we see? And I'm not necessarily, I guess I am asking a rhetorical question. Who amongst us do we see as divinity walking in the room, as someone who has engaged in the kind of personal transformation that exudes a great spirit? Mandela, we saw that coming out of prison. I think we clearly saw that in our king. I think there have been others, but they are as rare, Johnny, as a precious stone. And while we may have this collective consciousness that is throughout the diaspora in terms of a hive approach to it, the shining example, not just a city on the hill, but the spirit on the hill, if you will, the spirit on the cross, the example that we look to isn't something that we've necessarily, I've seen in leadership given that kind of reflection to. I know that we'll dig deeper into this when we come forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are here with Johnny Mack. Johnny is our entrepreneur and scholar practitioner on the World House. There's none better in terms of the great spirit energy than Johnny Mack. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul is suing the Trump administration over more than $600 million in public health grant cuts.
These cuts would have a devastating impact on basic public health infrastructure in Illinois.
Raoul says the funding is critical for tracking disease outbreaks and maintaining public health systems. The California Attorney General's office has launched a civil rights investigation into the response to the deadly Eaton fire. The probe will examine whether race, age, or disability discrimination contributed to evacuation delays in West Altadena, a historically Black community where most of the 19 deaths occurred. And residents in Springfield, Ohio remain on edge after a third straight day of bomb threats. Officials say at least 2 churches, including St. John Missionary Baptist Church, the site of a rally in support of Haitian immigrants last week, received threats. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Now is the time to save on an award-winning Nissan at the Nissan Now sales event, featuring the Rogue, Pathfinder, Frontier, and more. Don't wait. These offers are going fast. Shop your Southern California Nissan dealers and NissanUSA.com today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The UCLA women's basketball team, ranked number 2 in the country, continues to be a dominant force this season. The Bruins extended their winning streak to 18 games after their 23-point win Wednesday night at Michigan State. The Bruins are 24-1, 14-0 in the Big Ten. They have 9 wins over top 25 opponents. Major props to the NBA for covering all expenses for the 2 schools in town this week for the HBCU Classic. The men's basketball teams at Hampton University and North Carolina A&T meet up Friday night at the Forum in Inglewood. In addition to the players and coaches, the NBA covered air travel, hotel, and in-town transportation costs for the marching bands, cheerleaders, and support staff at both schools. Hampton and North Carolina A&T will each receive a $100,000 donation from the NBA for agreeing to play in the HBCU Classic. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
I love a day on the water with friends, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis sometimes holds me back. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy.
Teaching music is my passion, but my active psoriatic arthritis can limit me at times. Now I'm treating my joint symptoms with Skyrizi.
With Skyrizi, most people with plaque psoriasis saw 90% clearer skin at 4 months.
Or if you are an adult with active psoriatic arthritis, Skyrizi helps you move with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
There's nothing like clearer skin.
There's nothing like better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZI to learn more.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the Southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
On KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., our very special guest in this hour, the World House, with none other than Dr. Johnny Mack. Johnny Mack's research includes extensive study of Dr. King. He focuses on the triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism with a revolution of values that is effected through peaceable power. A revolution of values. Johnny, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse. Good to be here.
Johnny, we're looking at this Buddhist tradition of value revolution.
Mm-hmm.
This is different than the way some of us as activists have been taught and trained. We do like the things we wear. Man, it's cold up here in Chicago. Not today, but usually. And so Dr. King also said that while he is obviously fighting the poverty, racism, and militarism, he, like Thomas Jefferson, was also a materialist. You've never seen Dr. King not clean shaven in a nice suit and looking sharp as he could be, even at the hour of his tragic murder and assassination. Dr. King was still excellent and at his best. I'm thinking that this revolution of values, when Dr. King, towards the end of his life, is thinking about, I don't know if he's thinking about leaving the movement. I think he's thinking about moving into the classroom, about being a professor of the scholastic space. We can only imagine what he would have produced had he been in that environment for another decade or two of his very young and wonderful but tragically ended life. But Dr. King was, I think, really, really intent on this idea that the internal struggle, if you will, the chi, was as important as the external struggle to condemn injustice, to condemn violence, but that he had internalized it as well. Johnny?
Yeah. So it goes back to what we were saying earlier, that I think each one of us have that challenge. Each one of us can be and rise to the occasion of, what you called that great spirit. That great spirit is a spark in each and every one of us that only perhaps lies dormant until some crises or some major event ignites it. And part of that ignition is our own reflection, our own personal commitment, Jesse. And so, I continue to say that we each have a responsibility. We each have an obligation. It's nice to reflect on the examples that are Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela, Mohandas K. Gandhi, Rigoberta Menchú of Guatemala, who was a Nobel Peace Prize winner, the first indigenous winner of a Nobel Peace Prize of indigenous people. I was just with her a couple of days ago in Mexico, in Mérida, Mexico. You look at these, giants of personality and commitment and wonder, how do they arise to the occasion? And Jesse, each one of us has that opportunity and even that responsibility in our own way. And I think that we have to be aware of that. We can't look to someone else without looking into ourselves first.
It's clear to me that the authenticity is synthesis between the is and the ought, the who I is, and who I ought to be, right?
Yeah.
It's a real struggle to bridge the two. Dr. King was Hegelian. He believed that the truth could neither be found in the thesis of one's life nor the antithesis of one's life, but in the emergent synthesis which reconciled the two.
That's
Now,
right.
that means you take a little bit of this and a little bit of that. That's the way some people interpret the Hegelian synthesis. But again, the truth is found neither in the thesis nor the antithesis, but in the emergent synthesis, which reconciles the two, which means within the thesis, there is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Within the antithesis, there is a problem. And the truth, the acknowledgement that there is something in the middle that forms a new thesis, and even the new thesis itself is incomplete. It's just a matter of time before that experiment creates an antithesis and or an improvement to synthesis,
Mm-hmm.
a new synthesis, and this evolutionary process continues.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Johnny.
No, I'm sorry. Please finish your thought.
So I'm thinking that King is trying to wrestle with the things that he's saying, the scholastic nature of the nonviolent tradition, with the practical application of rejecting aspects of the system that can create a Donald Trump, or just a greedy legion is what I've been calling, many personalities, many spirits, all wrapped up and presented as one person.
Mm-hmm.
He's challenging everything that is American value, whether you like it or not. The man is president of the United States, and at any given moment, the president of the United States is the sum of who we are. That person just is.
Mm-hmm.
And the most painful part for Americans, I'm thinking in this hour, is we are looking at ourselves. We are looking at exactly how we raise our children. We are letting them learn and read anything. They can watch anything. They can get everything they want for themselves. That is as much an American value as anything we've seen. And we have never said, Johnny, one time that there's something wrong with it.
Yeah. So Jesse, this Hegelian king, and he was as you say, the quintessential Hegelian, the thesis, the antithesis, and then the synthesis. The beauty of that is the work that it must take to arrive at the synthesis. King admonished us that we must study, we must work at this idea of nonviolence. It doesn't just happen. It is an experience that we ourselves engage in real time, as well as over time. And so, there's real work to do here. And that's the commitment that people like King and the others we've mentioned did, that we seem perhaps, Jesse, to no longer do today. We want everything delivered to us on a silver platter, or perhaps delivered to us now. We need to use another term. We want AI to do all of our thinking for us, right? We want social media to tell us how we ought to behave. In fact, we want technology to babysit our children, to raise our children. And so where have we come to, in this day, in this time? And how do we recapture the creative drive and energy that created such people as King and Mandela and so many others? We do that by personal commitment, and not so much individually thinking about ourselves, but thinking about the humanity and dignity of all others.
I've never had to give much reflection to this until I went to prison. I didn't see my trajectory as being anything different than any other American who wanted to be known for what they were doing. They wanted to be maybe a public service, maybe they wanted to be a politician. But if there is a trajectory change in my life, it's that moment, right? I mean, it's that time that I'm forced in the middle of my life to think about my life and to think of how I want the story to end. And so incarceration can be a turning point. There's no doubt about that. But then there are the Amish who live a certain way. Now, I'm not completely in agreement with the way the Amish live. I mean, I think that living in the 17th century is it's a little hard for me to fathom. I think the tradition of African Americans has forced us out of any relationship with the idea of the 17th century. I know that our time is running near. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More with Dr. Johnny Mack when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Still battling a thirsty lawn that guzzles water and drains your wallet? Let LADWP turn that patch of grass into a gorgeous drought-smart garden for free. We're talking a full California-friendly landscape makeover designed and installed by pros at no cost to you. That's right, LADWP does the work, you get the upgrade. Ready to transform your yard and save big? Visit LADWP.com/leap. That's LADWP.com/LEAP.
This is the story of the one. As the purchasing manager at a manufacturing plant, she knows the only thing more important than having the right safety gear is having it there when you need it. That's why she partners with Grainger for auto reordering, so her team members can count on her to have cut-resistant gloves on hand, and each shift can run safely and efficiently. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks vapors in an easy-to-apply stick, and it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks Vapo Stick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks vapors when you need more comfort for yourself. Use as directed.
I love a day on the water with friends, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis sometimes holds me back. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy.
Teaching music is my passion, but my active psoriatic arthritis can limit me at times. Now I'm treating my joint symptoms with Skyrizi.
With Skyrizi, most people with plaque psoriasis saw 90% clearer skin at 4 months.
Or if you are an adult with active psoriatic arthritis, Skyrizi helps you move with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
There's nothing like clearer skin.
There's nothing like better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZI to learn more.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Not everything announces itself. Some things simply arrive, and the room is compelled to adjust. This is grooming without apology, without noise, without compromise. Gods and money, organic formulations, clean precision, crafted for skin that does not ask for permission to be felt. Element Cream, a rare hydration layered like an oud at dusk, measured, enduring, unmistakably masculine, moisturizing oil, a quiet revolution, restoring what stress, climate, and time attempts to claim. This is not skincare. It is composure made visible. It is inevitability. Gods and money exist impeccably. Discover the ritual at godsandmoney.com. That's godsandmoney, MONY.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the World House on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special regular contributor is none other than Dr. Johnny Mack. Johnny, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse, very much. Good to be here.
Johnny, before we have our final reflection and thought, can you share with us how we can support your work?
Thank you very much for asking. The World House Project, of course, is our organization. It's the World House Project, Inc. Our website is the World House Project. That is THE World, WRLD Project.org. There you can find out about our work, and you can donate to our work at our website, theworldhouseproject.org.
We look forward to being supportive of your work. It's nothing short of outstanding. Johnny, I want to make two observations. Christianity is divided largely in the world into two major sects, the sect of Catholicism and the sect of Protestants. The Protest movement, we broke away from the Catholic tradition, both Christian traditions, but the Protestant movement, where Dr. King found himself, the Protestant movement, right? Martin Luther posting his 95 Theses on the church at Wittenberg in the 1500s, I believe it was. I'm reflective of, in the Catholic Church, there is this symbol on the cross in just about every church that you go, this perfectly ideal 195-pound, 6'1", 6'2" Jesus of Nazareth hanging from the cross. And there is this Michelangelo and Buonarroti impression of who Jesus was in their tradition, and many have genuflected before that arrangement. But in the Protestant tradition, Jesus is not on the cross. If there's a cross in the church at all, because we celebrate the resurrection far more than we celebrate the idea that Jesus died on the cross. We celebrate in our tradition that he got up and kept it moving and came back from the dead, that he defied the odds, that hope is alive, that hope is possible, and that we can keep it moving, and we can be born again, not necessarily of the flesh, Nicodemus, but of the spirit. We can come on back, and that God keeps giving us chances, right? And I'm thinking in this moment that the transformation of the human spirit, is obviously deeply personal work. And in some cases, it requires community to help someone transform themselves into this revolution of values, which is a wonderful term in the Beyond Vietnam speech that Dr. King delivered in 1967, a revolution of values. But we have to juxtapose that revolution of values against a monk who has the power to set himself on fire, and then the interpretation of Han, who says this wasn't suicidality, this isn't crazy, This was the supreme act of love of our people to study war no more. And that if we have to do this to get your attention, then we are engaged in the deepest faith that we can engage in. This revolution of values has to be very much in line with Dr. King's final thinking on the sum of it all, the sine qua bonon of it all, that in the final analysis, it's love, that it's forgiveness, that love can conquer hate, that people of goodwill can overcome evil, but that the transformation of our spirits, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make change. Michael Jackson might argue. Johnny, we have about 3 minutes left in the show. It's all yours.
Well, Jesse, that's there's a lot to unpack there. Yes, King's Revolution of Values, as we've discussed before on this show, are very simple ideas. They are essentially human dignity, human liberty, and as you say, community. We find our dignity and liberty in community. And we often miss that point, that individualism, my personal pulling myself up by my bootstraps, neoliberalism tends to overshadow that we're all in this together, as King said. We'll either live in a world house as brothers and sisters, or we'll perish as fools. And so those values that you mentioned, Jesse, love and forgiveness. A third I would add to that, and I'm sure you would agree, is ultimately reconciliation. It's one thing to say we love, but that manifests in how we reconcile with each other, individually and collectively. Reconcile within ourselves, with ourselves, as we struggle with our own individual humanity, but how we reconcile in community and build the kind of world that we want to live in, this world house. And I think, Jesse, that's the hope. That's the message of hope, that we have to keep, as your dad says, hope alive. And that life is the life that we live individually and collectively. That is the hope. And we collectively must keep it alive in community. And so I hope that this revolution of values that King talked about will live in peace.
Johnny, we're so grateful for your contribution, not only to the show, but to the country and to the world. Reconciliation, that's the hard work.
Yeah.
We can all say that we love, we can all say that we forgive, but going that extra mile to turn an enemy into a frenemy, or to, as Dr. King said in that speech, the most difficult part of this task is to see the world and to see the world from another person's point of view, and to understand that point of view. You can't even approach the Hegelian synthesis of brotherhood and sisterhood in the world unless you can first see the good in just about any part of human creation. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and the World House with none other than Dr. Johnny Mack. Looking forward to tomorrow when we're on Fat Meat Fridays with the creator of our show, Gina Towns. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.